finance meeting to order. I need, first up, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimous. We're on to item 3, public comment. Is there any public comment? Doesn't appear to be any public comment. Item 4A, we have our minutes from March 7th, unless there's changes or additions, or you can't have additions. Yeah, if they're fine as presented, need a motion and support.
So moved.
We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimous. We move on to 4B. This is the Sheriff Department. Welcome, Under Sheriff Kroll.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have a request before you this morning to approve the purchase of two boats, two marine law enforcement vessels, and the related trailer equipment. For the background in this request here, we had currently possessed 4 watercrafts. One was the Yamaha jet ski, which had a blown engine. 3 other functional boats, a 1994 Sea Ray, a Polar, 2007 Polar boat, and 1997 Lund boat. They've been in good service to us, but they've moved beyond their useful life. We've tried to maintain the repairs as best we can. They came kind of cost prohibitive to repair the outboards and things of that nature. They did all still fully function, just not very reliably for operations. So we knew this day was coming about a year and a half ago. We began researching boats. We comprised a committee of Walt Luck, who is one of our long-standing Marine Patrol deputies, 2 members of the dive team, and then the current deputies who conduct the marine operations. What type of crafts they would like, what type of features they would like to see in that, especially for dive recovery operations. And so we set out and kind of set these parameters up, looked at a variety of boats. They narrowed their search to the type of boats they wanted, both in size and abilities. There was not really a need for us to maintain 4 boats. Now with pretty much 2 dedicated Marine deputies, they maintain their own operations. So really we just needed 2 reliable crafts. We do have a 3rd small boat that we maintain. It's just a very small flat bottom boat that we use for rivers and things like that. That's not included anywhere in here. We're going to maintain that. That helps us get down like the Grand River or these very shallow bodies of water. So we moved on and got the specifications on the requested boats and their related outboards, and we had gotten 3 dealer quotes, one from Krupa's Boat Mart, one from B Sports Center in St. John's, and one from Coldwater Marina. They all gave us some variety of government discount. All of the bids were relatively close in price. We are asking to select Krupa's Boat Mart here in Jackson, Michigan, only because of their proximity, and they would also be the marina that maintains the boats. And we auctioned the remaining crafts that we had, because all were bought with some variety of either DNR grants, or one of the boat was bought just strictly out of county dollars. So we recovered the costs out of those boats and applied it for the purchase price of these 2 remaining boats, and I cannot thank Rick and his staff more than enough for their help in getting these on the auction website. And I had no idea there would be such interest in used boats, but the auction went very well. We were able to recover $23,000, a little bit over that, out of the 4 vessels that we auctioned, including the jet ski with the blown engine, which was known to the buyer. But people traveled as far away as northern Tennessee to pick these boats up. So it was a very successful auction. So we are budgeted under the capital improvement plan for a dollar amount for boat purchases or marine law enforcement purchases to the tune of $17,500. The total purchase price of the 2 boats and related trailer equipment is $45,350, using Krupa's Boat Mart as the vendor. The remaining difference will come from the $23,000 that we recovered at the boat auction for the vessels that we had, leaving the remainder of $4,500 to be covered from a DNR grant, and then a small amount from currently budgeted funds.
Questions? Commissioner Elwell.
Under Sheriff, just one, the other 2 quotes you got were for the exact same boats?
Yes, we spec the same exact boats with outboards from all 3 marinas.
We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimous.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Next up, we have Parks requesting a purchase. This will be for unisex restroom at the Falling Water Trail. Anything you wanted to talk on this about, Jeff? Or? Pretty explanatory. Okay. Commissioner Elwell.
Jeff, I've just got one question. It sounds like it's a drop-in facility, prefab or something?
Yes, it's a company that, CXT, that does this kind of work. They're probably the most commonly used company around the country, and it is prefab, comes on a flatbed, already built, small crane set in place, ready to go.
And you've mentioned in your letter that there's, I think, $165 a month fee currently that we pay to have the current portable ones serviced. This new one, does it need to get pumped the same as the old ones?
No, it gets pumped on an occasional basis, but occasional can range, depending on the microbes, anywhere from 6 to 10 years. It basically is a self-contained unit with a microbe that's introduced. This isn't always pleasant stuff to talk about, but that actually eats the debris and
So there's no electricity, no plumbing involved at all?
No.
Dry pit type, essentially?
no, at this price point, we can and these waterless toilets are pretty common in state parks, pretty common in, quite frankly, on the back nines of golf courses, those types of things, where you can't affordably get utilities. Right now, to get, we could drill a well, but we'd have to have power, and to get power to that location would be significantly more than the cost to actually do this whole project, just to get the power there.
Any further questions? I have a couple.
Yeah.
We're replacing 2 porta-johns. Was one of the self-contained, or are we still keeping a porta-john?
No, the porta-johns will go away. This will take the place of the 2 porta-johns that were at Teff Road. And they were vandalism issues anyways.
Yeah, I can
So-
imagine. Second question, are we locked into any contract issues with these porta-johns we're going to have to pay even if we don't use them?
No, it's an annual. We go on an annual basis, and there is no specific number. We have a specific vendor, but the numbers vary from year to year.
Thank you. Motion and support? We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Thank you, Jeff. Item D, JCDOT 2016 Capital Improvement Plan Amendment. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. May need some of my team members if you want to come on up in case there are questions. I did have some slides to present, but we'll try this without. It was just photos, basically, but apparently the system isn't working, so. We have been, as you know, since last fall, working to strategically identify priorities for a variety of equipment, not only replenishing what we have in our current stocks for aging items and those that cost us a lot of money to maintain, but to also look for new opportunities for innovation and ways to become more efficient and effective. And maybe I'll pause for a moment and just say that I do have a revised document here. I think those were all uploaded. Everybody has this, so you don't need the paper version. So, okay, very good. So in May here, we will be coming forward with a request for an authorizing resolution to issue bonds, and that'll start the cycle of soliciting the sale of those bonds. Calhoun just finally, after issuing such a resolution last June, sold their bonds and got a very favorable interest rate. The delay on that end was due to a consolidation of their Honeywell energy savings program that they finally got, and they lumped it on top of the issue for the road department in Calhoun. So the interest rate there was under 3%, very favorable. And we're looking for those bonds to basically have a double guarantee of the MTF revenues that we receive, plus the county's full faith and credit and general credit rating. So that is one huge advantage of being a department of the county versus an independent road commission. So One of the things that you heard earlier was that anything purchased 60 days before the bond authorizing resolution can be included in the bond. To basically refund ourselves by using cash reserves to buy it up front and then pay yourself back. So the paver and the 2 Flowboy 50-ton haulers and the hauling trailer for the paver were all part of that initiative. So you'll see a comprehensive list of items that really breaks down 2016. We can go through that on an itemized basis if you'd like. Otherwise, I can just begin, I guess, with the overall big picture that we're looking at about $9.8 million in equipment. It's higher than the initial number we talked about. One of the reasons for that is the road funding bill passed shortly after we gave our presentation, so then I knew that I could cover debt service comfortably. The $6.5 million number was more of a comfort level before we had a road funding bill. So once we had the road funding bill, our team really went back to the drawing board, and we spent January and February, and the bid purchasing committee jointly with Calhoun tore it all apart and basically put it back together again. And if you want to know more about that process, we can certainly answer your questions, but they, independent of me and some of the other initial team members, basically came up with their own list and provided that as an A priority list. So those items are all here, unedited, and then what happened is we added back in some of those innovative items, and I'll highlight a few of those. We talked about the one-man robotic spray patching unit. That's in the listing here. We'd like to get one of those to try. There's also in the list, it's a very expensive item, so we have yet to explore it fully. It's called the Python. That would be the, I'm looking for it here, is the HMA patching truck robotic. It's near the bottom of the list on the second page under attenuator in the listing there. The price tag is heavy, but it's basically, if you think about I-94, it's a unit that has a robotic arm and a roller and so forth, all in one unit that can lay the hot mix in and roll it and compact it, just like the one-man spray patching machine. So things like that, if we demo them and we feel they are effective, we would like to be innovative in trying those. We also have things that are safety oriented, like the cone placement machine. We do have light duty vehicles included. Our pickups and our SUVs are all very old and aging continuously, so it is important, and you'll see an ongoing program to stay sustainable there. You know, in subsequent years, we have approximately $200,000 set aside to keep reinvesting in those. And then I did put a placeholder in for some plow trucks outside of the MDOT program. I put $1 million in this package. If we're able to save money, just like we did with the pavers and the Flowboys, I'd like to have your blessing to reinvest that into some new trucks that go immediately into our county fleet. The trucks are so bad, and Mark came to me proactively here recently, and how many trucks did you ask for, Mark? 17 or something crazy? 21 new trucks, yeah. So kind of blew me out of the water, and this is just one of those things that's going to take time to get the fleet back up to where it should be. But we can do little things, and so I do have $1 million in, which may buy 4 to 5 trucks, definitely 4, possibly 5. But again, if we save money, or if we decided not to get the Python and so forth, I basically would reallocate that money towards additional plow trucks, because we want to get to a position where we don't have, where having a down truck during a storm event is a rare exception rather than the rule. Right now, you basically start the body counts when the storm begins, and we'd rather have a surprise when that happens. So I guess I'll open it up for questions at this point. I've kind of given the high-level overview.
Commissioner Elwell.
Chris, just a couple of questions. One, on one of the lines you've got for the purchase of 24 light-duty vehicles being pickups and SUVs, is that what we have now, that number, or is that increasing the number?
We have more than that now. I don't know the exact number, but we are adding staff per the staffing allocation plan that was approved recently. So our engineering group needs a few more vehicles. They're going to continue to use some of them. We're going to push down the decent used vehicles into the crews, and then kind of replenish for more like the engineering team and our supervisory staff, and kind of keep a program going sustainably.
Okay. And then secondarily, a question a little further out as far as the bonding goes. You're confident that if we pass the bond resolution, that the revenue will be there to pay it back?
Absolutely. Yes, and this was all kind of hatched as a plan before we even knew what the road funding bills was. So that was a huge, it bolstered the plan once we saw that we were going to see the stair-stepping effect. Next year, we're going to see almost $3 million in 2017. In the subsequent year, $4 to $5 million and so forth. The debt service on this will be just over $1 million per year. And we would have to invest that in capital anyway. And we'll still invest a little bit in capital. It just, we haven't filled in 17, 18, 19 years yet until we get a better sense of where we'll be budgetarily, because we're planning so many road projects and this wedge patching program and so forth. So, but this gets us out of the gate. I'll tell you honestly, this plan is really all about building capacity. We have an avalanche of work coming now that we have a road funding package. This is basically the tools and the resources that we need in order to get the work done.
Further questions, committee? I have a couple, three here. I realize we need to sell bonds to buy all the equipment, and we have to update, but we've got $2 million worth of non-equipment update listed here. The access and security system, parking grounds update, right on up through windows. Is this a proper place to put it when we sell a bond? Shouldn't we be buying equipment with this?
Well, we predominantly are. We have $9.8 million in equipment. We're only borrowing up to $10 million. We don't want to exceed that $10 million number. So I'm working with Finance Director Latham on that. So we're finding in our current budget, we did have some capital set aside in our budget for some of these other items. What we did try to focus on in this list here are things that support the maintenance and care of the equipment. So the HVAC upgrades are frankly in large part for the shops and the facilities, for the workers and the mechanics and so forth. That was just never installed years ago, and some of it's old and inefficient. Some of the windows, we put in a number there. It's basically next year, so that'll come out of our general budget for 2017. It's not technically included in the bonds. If you look in the columns there to the right of the total, the total's listed as 75, but it's actually listed in 2017. Our windows, we're blessed with a facility that's bought and paid for. So we're basically entering, now that it's 30, 40 years old, the phase of upkeep and taking care of this facility so it doesn't go downhill. We're addressing small things right now. We've got carpet that's worn down to the backing in some of the offices where the chairs were and so forth. So we're slowly but surely trying to just, keep our facility nice. It's just part of our esprit de corps. If you take care of the buildings, you take care of the shop and so forth, and the people, then the equipment will last longer. That's my belief, and I think that's the general consensus of our management team. So more on the building upgrades. You'll see I just generally slotted $100,000 per year after an initial injection of $400,000. We have parking lots that are failing. We have yet to determine exactly what we're going to do with a lot of those funds, but I can just highlight the wash facility, for example. We've gotten estimates. Terry, you've worked hard. $250,000 is on the high end of what we think that would be, correct? The guts of our wash facility, we have an automated facility now that has feeler arms that we did some minor upgrades to it, but it's very important with a lot of this new equipment to get the salt off after storm events and so forth before we store it. We really want to just keep things clean. So that would basically upgrade that automated wash machine, and it opens it up to other county departments. So facilities could use it, and we would have a key fob system or something like that, correct? With what?
That's in the quote.
It's in the quote. So it's kind of a one-shot opportunity to have something to, basically a set of facilities to help maintain the equipment properly.
Okay, well, I'm going to support this. My first preference is equipment to get the roads brought up to standards, because the public is very concerned and very opinionated about getting our roads fixed.
Understood.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions? Carl?
Chris, just to go off of what Commissioner Elwell said, so what you're telling us, you're confident that Lansing will come through with the MTF?
We are. I keep keep in constant communication with the County Road Association, and there really isn't any buzz right now about the gas tax portion. We're all nervous about the state appropriation piece, which is on the back end, those last few stair steps. So time will tell on that, but we are definitely going to be seeing that injection of the vehicle registration fees and the gas tax increases starting next year. So there's full confidence there. And we can afford this, by the way, without it. I've run the numbers both ways in case something went crazy and wrong. But
Right, I understand that, and that's certainly one of the reasons I'm going to support it. I think maybe you have a little bit more faith in Lansing than I do, so thank you.
Understood. I call it best available information, and I'm just trying to move forward with that.
Any further discussion? Not, I need a motion and support. We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimous. Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you
your
all very
explanation.
much. This has been a huge project for us, so thank you.
Next up, we move on to item 4E, mechanical equipment for the 17th floor. Welcome, Rick.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Have before you a request for purchasing air conditioning for the 17th floor.
Discussion, questions? We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. You have it. Thank you. Next up, item 4F, facilities, Meals on Wheels replacement vans.
Before you, you have a request to purchase 3 Ram Tradesman minivans for the Meals on Wheels folks.
Discussion? Commissioner Elwell.
Just a comment, really, Rick, the two of them are right around 80,000 miles. It just seems like not many miles, but you're making the recommendation based on the repairs that we've done to them, I guess?
Correct. They just weren't holding up. And it's not like Department on Aging's not maintaining them. They do a great job.
Should we be looking at a different type or style of van that would hold up better for that or not? And what, you're looking at Ram Tradesman minivans, I guess, huh?
Right. And we tried the Ford Transit Connect. It's not proven itself to be a reliable vehicle. Same with the Chevy Uplanders. I think at the end of the day, the Chrysler product is our best bet.
Thanks.
Commissioner Rice.
Rick, I know for a long time it seemed like 100,000+ kind of was a benchmark, at least for me anyway. And we went through that with some of we went through that before with some of the sheriff vehicles, even though they had over 100,000. We discussed the year of them, et cetera. So it would be fair to say that as just because a vehicle may only have 80,000 or 90,000 or something like that, we have to take into consideration several factors. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Michael Overton, please.
I was just going to make a quick comment in regard to this. In my conversations with Marcy, these aren't, our typical vehicle. They're not highway. They're stop and go constantly running. Even though the odometer's not clicking away, the engine is clicking away. And do they have an hour meter by any chance on these?
Not on these.
I didn't think so. So they're all driving around the city, the community, and well, JDOT's left, so I'll say it. We all know our streets are in perfect repair. So it's pretty hard on them, is what I'm getting at.
Commissioner Rice.
So, Rick, if they're just sitting around idling, could you kind of like do a math and kind of figure out exactly how many real miles is actually on them? No, I'm just joking, Rick. Just forget about it.
Those wheels were spinning.
I'd like to point out, though, that $18,741 has been donated, I guess, correct,
Correct.
to this? And these vans, I'm sure there's a lot of high-speed pursuits and special maneuvers. And get the meals there on time. Need a motion and support? We have motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Passes unanimous. Thank you, Rick.
One more thing. Rick, are these vehicles, are we putting in the equipment to track them? Is that the test?
No, we're doing that with the health department right now, and then based on the results at the end of the year, we'll look at installing the GPS units, which will also capture the engine hours.
Yeah, as well as, starts and stops and braking and all that other stuff, right?
Hard
Yeah,
accelerations.
it should be interesting. Thanks.
Commissioner Rice.
Rick, it may have already been done, but is there a way that the Friends of Jackson Seniors maybe could be recognized for this donation?
I think they should.
Yeah.
It'd be more of a question for Director Wandel, but I think they should be recognized. No, they've been very consistent.
Okay, well, I'll follow up on this. You don't need, you got enough to do. Okay.
Guys? Talk about it and get back to it? I think Michael Overton probably wants to write him a letter. I don't know. Moving on to item 4G, Honeywell change order.
In front of you, you have a request for a change order from our Honeywell Energy Upgrade project. We ended up with a surplus, and we looked into things a little bit more in terms of the mechanical levels and found that we could spend money here at the tower with our boilers to put an upgraded timer system on it, along with 2 buildings that would benefit from having some additional weather stripping installed. So that's why I recommend we use part of that surplus for these upgrades.
We have motion and support. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Board. One more facilities item, 5-year contractor agreement.
Well, Mr. Chair, if I may. Before you, you have a request to approve the proposal from Kentwood Office Furniture using the My Deal program in the amount of $49,742 for refurbished office furniture and installation for the 11th floor IT project. Thank you. And before we do that, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'd like to introduce Rusty Wellman, our new project manager. Rusty, come on up here. Rusty came to us from R.W. Mercer and has just hit the ground running here at the county. We're doing a lot of work. And one of the things that Rusty and I discussed was, because so many of our projects are of the smaller amount, that we're always going out to bid because we stay in compliance with the county policy of getting 3 bids. It just was really hard to find competent contractors that wanted to bid all the time on these small little projects. So that led us to having a 5-year contractor agreement with a large local company. As you could see in your board pack, we reached out to O'Hara, Mercer, Shively-Boma, and Cunningham to give us prices. All proven companies that do great work. It also allows us to budget for our projects going forward, and I'm sorry, Sarah, I forgot about this earlier, because we're doing these 5-year budgets, it was really advantageous to us to be able to project our costs. The way Rusty does projects is he uses the RS Means book, and what it does is it breaks things down into separate components so that you know it'll take so many hours to do this, it'll take so many hours to do that, and it will really help streamline our process. How many projects do you have going on right now, Rusty?
Oh, that are active?
Yeah.
Active, there's 3 of them, but then there's probably 10 of them that could be active. It's just getting the contractors in line to do the work, and this is part of getting those started. Oh, sorry.
So,
Well, I spoke with Rick just before the meeting because I was a little concerned with the 5-year timeline with the contractor service, because most of the contracts we do, at least that I'm aware of, it seems like we're in the 3-year range for topping out. So I just wondered if there's anybody else questioning the 5-year longevity contract, I guess.
"90 days is a termination. It's in the agreement that if we're not happy with their work, then we can terminate with 90 days' notice and be relieved from the contract without any retribution." 1.5%.
And this is something that, I mean, we would utilize their services only when we felt we needed them, correct?
Correct. I'm sorry.
No.
Go ahead.
you're doing fine.
This would be for projects that are less than $10,000. It'd be based on a time and material basis. As long as the project, this portion of the project is under $10,000, then it would be estimated, proposed by that contractor for T&M proposal, and anything over $10,000 would still be put out to bid, just like we do now.
Well, Rick, I think it's worth repeating, as you've got noted in here, that you're having a hard time getting contractors to bid on less than $10,000 projects, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, committee members. We're presenting for your review the financial statements for the 2 months ended February of 2016. Budget benchmark is 16.7. And our 3-year average, which is, I'm presenting something a little different there. 3-year average of expenditures is 17.9, so we're just under that, and so forth, at 17.7. With respect to revenues for the 2 months, to use a technical term, we're just a tad below the average for the 2 months. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have. Again, it's early in the year.
This might be more for Mike than for Jim, but I noticed the overtime for emergency dispatch is higher, and I think we ended the year substantially higher at the end of 2015. Mike, it was equivalent to, like 4,000 hours or more, I think, of overtime. And I'm of the belief that they've done some hiring. Are we hopeful or believing that we're on track to eliminate so much overtime there?
In fact, they had, when they interviewed, they actually put a couple others that are in waiting, if you will, because we always have some folks who fall off.
yeah, I hear new voices on the radio, so I'm glad to see that if it reduces the overtime and the employees having to work so many hours. And then my only other comment, I had mentioned this to Mike before the meeting, there's a line near the emergency dispatch, it's called truancy grant. I think that really is liaison officer, and I think it should be named that to make it more obvious what it is. And I've also talked to Mike about the importance, I think anyway, of having contracts on those. I support the liaison officers and would support the contracts, but I think it's an obligation that we have to have those before the commission and approve them. Not really anything to do with the numbers for Jim, but just an opportunity to talk about it for a second, so.
Ending balance total, was there any carryover?
Well, yeah, I mean, some of it is still being adjusted. The expenditure side, however, we were underspent, and what I recall is probably $400,000 to $500,000 underspent from the budget. The revenue side, as we discussed, was more pessimistic than we anticipated. However, I still believe for the year, we're going to come out as we budgeted, or pretty close to what we budgeted. And if you recall that, we budgeted the fact that we would use, I believe, 1.3 million of the reserves in the general fund. So at this point, we're pretty much on target, maybe just, again, a tad less optimistic.
Couldn't we have the final, I mean,
Well,
when you
final,
had that final number?
Yeah, we're pretty much final now, but I still hesitate. There can be some further adjustments, plus the auditors will be on site in a couple weeks to start the audit process for the year. Occasionally, there are adjustments that come to light at that point. So that's why I hesitate to say that's the final.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Moving on to item 5A, the claims. In motion and support to pay the claims? Have motion and support to pay the claims. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Other minutes, Building Authority, for your viewing pleasure. Don't see anything on our May reporting schedule. Return to public comment. Look like we're a little short on public. Committee member comments? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.